Soon some members of beginner's mind will begin to make their rakusus in preparation for formally taking the precepts like many of you already have. And of course, you know we recite them in the Bodhisattva ceremony, as I mentioned, and then each is followed by a commentary from Dogen Zenji. The first three, the so-called, I can put them up here. I don't quite, there, let me put them up here. 1 second.
I can hear it. I'm sure they would.
Yeah, you remember them so well, I think. You maybe don't need them, but let me see if I have them. Here we go. Okay. Okay, there they are. There they are. Oh, it's not the one. Not what I wanted. Well, anyway, there's some. Anyway, here they are. Here anyway. Here we go. Move this around. All right. So anyway, there are 13 of them, as you know, and I will be doing just 4 of them today. Okay.
Peter, so we don't actually see anything on the screen right now.
We
Would
don't.
you?
Oh.
Yeah. Would you
Okay.
either maybe stop the screen share actually, and then we can maybe post a link to them?
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Let's do that. That's strange. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to repeat them when I'm talking here also. But anyway, these first 3, the so-called pure precepts, they also appear in the meal chant as well, as I discussed last time. To stop all evil, to practice good, to save all sentient beings, those are the 3 pure precepts. And then the meal chant adds the end of things, and to accomplish the Buddha's way. In the monthly ceremony, to stop all evil is, I vow to refrain from all evil. That's the precept. I vow to refrain from all evil. Evil, a strong word for doing what is wrong, is perhaps, however, more suited to the religions that many of us grew up in. Dogen adds to this, it is the abode of the law of all Buddhas. It is the source of the law of all Buddhas. Again, it is the abode of the law of all Buddhas. It is the source of the law of all Buddhas. By this, he indicates that this precept, the first pure precept, not only contains within it all of the others, but is also where they originated from. Because Dogen's practice started from the precepts. Were just sit a precept, it might seem a more likely candidate for the foundation upon which all of our practice rests as Zen Buddhists. But in fact, Zazen, sitting meditation, translation, is but one of these practices. And what with the so many hours, more hours that we are off the meditation cushion or chair than on it, sitting by itself is not finally enough to change our lives. One thing to note is that Buddhists do not take I vow to refrain from all evil or any of the precepts because they have to, as if Buddha had given them like what God was said to have given to Moses for his people. Our precepts are recommendations, not commandments. The second of the pure precepts in the full moon ceremony is, I vow to make every effort to live in enlightenment. I vow to make every effort to live in enlightenment, which in the meal chant is simply to practice good. Dogen explains that this is the teaching of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi and the path of the one who practices and that which is practiced. Just like that. It is the teaching of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, Bodhi, and the path of the one who practices and that which is practiced. In the Heart Sutra, as you well know, Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi is the complete perfect enlightenment. And it is said to result from experiencing the emptiness of everything, Dharma included, which leaves one without fears and attachment to concepts of any kind. Despite someone having kept the precepts and sat for very many years, Dogen implies with the path of the one who practices and that which is practiced, is that any assumption that subsequent realization would signify the end of our effort would be incorrect, for the path beyond it has further practices for us. The third of the pure precepts, expressed as to save all sentient beings in the meal chant, tells us what is beyond realization, pledging, I vow to live and be lived for the benefit of all beings. When living for ourselves is no longer of much interest to us, living for the well-being of others appears. To be lived here, it says, I vow to live and be lived for the benefit of all beings. This to be lived here refers to our having others define us by our including their world in ours. To this, Dogen simply adds, it is transcending profane and holy and taking self and others across. Similar to the phrase, as I mentioned last time also, far beyond form and emptiness in the robe chant, transcending profane and holy means the practice takes us past not only the emptiness of all things, but the emptiness of emptiness itself. Attachment is attachment, whether to the world we were brought up in or to the one Buddhism leads us to. A 20th century Japanese Roshi said something like, those who believe in reality are stupid. I think I quoted this before. Those who believe in emptiness are even dumber. This necessity to take both ourselves and others over our ocean of conceptions to the shore beyond them is what Dogen calls in the Genjo Koan, casting off the body and mind of self and other, and the body and mind of others. The three pure precepts, having shown where practice takes us, the 10 grave precepts now return to the theme of the first pure precept to specify what we are better off avoiding doing. For the first of the 10, I vow not to kill, Dogen's comment is, by not killing life, the Buddha tree seed grows. Transmit the life of Buddha and do not kill. By not killing life, the Buddha tree seed grows. Transmit the life of Buddha and do not kill. Enlightenment can sound very special because we don't recognize that what it is referring to is life itself. To fully live is to be enlightened. Although it cannot be said that we are enlightened by definition, because definitions are one of the categories of thought that prevent us from experiencing this. We can't know that we are enlightened because knowing takes place only in the relative world. What Dogen is saying here is that our not taking life allows the Buddha tree seed to grow. That is, lets the possibility remain for that life to be realized. In this way, refusing to kill is helping to, quote, transmit the life of Buddha, unquote. As a relative newbie at Tassajara, I felt indignant, this is a kind of aside, I felt indignant at Suzuki Roshi's saying in the Zendo that we cannot kill anyway to someone who had hit a spider during service while beating the mukugyo, the wooden fish. An engineer by education at least, I thought something like, killing is killing. No two ways about it. When that is exactly what there are. There are two ways. What Roshi was referring to was our true nature, what we call the Buddha nature, that each and every one is, and everything is. That would have made sense to those who had had a Satori experience, but I was far from among them. Well, I'm going to stop. That's enough for today, I think, of that. I'll return later. Do you have any questions? Let's get Jane in here. Let me move my seat over a little bit. Here we go. All right. Mark came by this week and he brought this media cart for us, which is quite wonderful. Now we can. This has got to get pushed out again. Yeah, because now we can wheel it around a lot better than we could in the past. Now we can wheel. We don't have to scrape along the floor. Okay. Okay. So anybody have any comments or questions? Mike?
When it is said we should not kill, and the way I understand your talk, one of the things we need to do is not kill the Buddha, try to kill the Buddha nature inside of us, in the sense that squash it, suppress it, ignore it, or anything like that. Is that part of what's being said, and to not kill is like, yes, you can kill, don't kill people, but don't kill your path, don't kill your process of recognizing your Buddha nature. Is that kind of in that area?
Well, I hadn't thought of it that way before, in fact, but yeah, probably so. Of course, not kill, refers to the spider as well.
Yep.
And so after Suzuki Roshi gave his explanation about we cannot kill anyway, he said, of course, if you're going to hurt the spider, stop hitting the mukugyo, no matter if it completely disrupts the chanting. So everything wants to live. And being alive is enlightenment. And so therefore, we, as much as we cannot keep death away, we cannot keep things from dying, we sometimes cannot help killing. But as much as possible, we avoid it. No matter what the size of what it is, we avoid it. We don't get carried away, but that's what the real meaning of the precept is.
It's like the intention of killing. A bug bites you, you automatically smack it. You don't have the same intent as you have, hey, there's a bug on me, I'm going to crush it. How dare you be on me and stuff. I remember the story that Jane told about Suzuki Roshi's wife when she was killing bugs in her house, and everybody was saying, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. And she was chanting, as she killed the bugs. It's part of life, I guess. I mean, I don't know, because I understand the idea of not killing, but everything we do, we actually do kill. We eat a plant, we're killing a plant. We eat meat, we're killing meat. If we're, smacking a bug because it's going to hit us with poison, we're still killing. But it's the intention behind it is part of what governs the idea of not killing. Is that why are you doing it, or am I starting to wander off base here?
Anyway, do not kill.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Paul?
Good morning, everyone. I was also with Peter in those early days of us novices, and had a number of experiences also of the killing nature. And one that I remember quite vividly was during a session in the old Zendo. They in the summertime, there's these little flies, these little deer flies. I don't know what kind of flies they are, but there's just millions of them. They're like like the black flies in the Arctic. I mean, they're just everywhere. And we'd be sitting there, and they'd be crawling up your nose and in your ears, and you'd have to sit there and deal with them. And one lunchtime, at lunch break, Katagiri Roshi, who was the teacher of that for that session, came up to Niels and I, who were the two sort of, the two young make it happen kind of guys, the roustabouts, the ones that got the car out of the ditch and the flag up the pole. Anyway, he came to us and said, "Kill the flies." So we went out and found some old-fashioned pump sprayers and put some there was some fly poison in there, apparently. I don't know what, left over from earlier days, I guess. Yes, it was left over when when the Tassajara was a resort. And we sprayed the whole Zendo with this fly killer and killed the flies. I can still remember now the tone of his voice. Kill the flies. Anyway, I've always had a great deal of trouble with the precepts because they seem so judgmental and so Christian and so like I'm better than you, the type sort of thing. So I fixated on the memory of Suzuki Roshi saying once that there's only one precept, and that's not to make two. So anytime you make things into this and that, good and bad, you and them, you and others, you're breaking the precepts. And I think that holds pretty well, but it's not the whole picture.
Thank you, Paul. Rachel? Oh, it looks like you were going to do something, Rachel. Was that? No. Okay. Anyone else? June, are you there now?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Can you do the full moon ceremony today?
Yes.
Yeah, because we have time now. Probably it looks like it. There's
But may I say something?
yes.
I can't believe it's interesting to me how the silence comes up as soon as we start talking about dying, and killing things. And I would think there would be some real questions about this because it is something everybody has to deal with, whether it's a mosquito on your hand or, the slugs in your garden or the flies or something. And I can't believe you don't have any questions concerning that particular one. Even one little question.
Yes, Bob.
I've got a question about evil. In light of the things going on in Afghanistan and how the United States is seen around the world, there's a lot of things, well-intentioned actions that are perceived by others as evil. Is there a way to think about evil in a way that gets our arms around different viewpoints of actions of others that might be considered evil?
Well, I would think getting your arms around people is the best thing to do. That is to as much as possible. This is the world of suffering for a lot of time, and we in a way are quite lucky that ours is not anything like what other people have gone through. But still, we accept everything. We don't cut anything out of our worlds. But when we face something that's not right, then we should face it. But it's a very, very difficult question.
Can I?
Yes, Jane.
When you have, I think what Paul said in there was particularly appropriate to what we're talking about separating from others is the real crime. And when we separate from others, it's easy to see evil. But when we realize that we're not separate, what we're looking at is us in another form, in a form we don't want to see or recognize, then what to do about it is a whole different matter. If you're looking at a mosquito and you're thinking, there's a mosquito, should I kill it or should I not? Then you start thinking, wait a minute, that's me as a mosquito. What should I do? How should I handle this? Or that's me as a person harming another person. What should I do about that now? How can I change that? It's a whole other kind of problem of dealing with it. I don't think evil is something that's outside of us. I think what we see as evil is us performing badly, showing ignorance, and behaving without regard for human life. So it's not a problem outside of us. It's how do we deal with evil within us is the real problem. If it is evil, I call it ignorance.
Rachel?
Since Jane spoke up about asking or a question, in terms of the vowing not to kill, and also refraining from evil, in my mind, what comes up is I've been in medical situations on both sides, but personal as well as just part of a process. And there can be times in illness, medical situations, in which there are really choices of allowing to die or not allowing to die, or even taking active measures. And that when you are separated from people, when others do not see others as themselves, do you know what I mean? When they do see two sides, then it's so easy for many to say evil. But if, as you said, Jane, if you look at the mosquito as me, if you begin to experience that side, then decisions that are complex become more humane, even though I'm certain there never will be complete amity between people. But it is on my mind because it really does consistently come up in the human life, young or old. Those circumstances more and more come up, and very dramatic people can very easily holler evil at remedies that they would not themselves choose.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of what people, that if from that point of view, that's delusion. Yelling evil is delusion. So our practice is investigating ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we have thoroughly investigated ourselves, that leaves us able to help others and desiring to help others. But until that point, it's our business. And everything in the world is our business. And we have to look at those things in ourselves. So for Buddhism, even though we say evil here, and there is a word in Japanese that sounds like evil, but not exactly the same, there's still we don't think of it we think of it as diluted action, or thinking, or speaking. In the case of accusing others of being evil, it's diluted speaking. And when we really understand ourselves, which of course takes forever, then we haven't earned the right to speak. We are able to speak. And so taking your own life seriously is the path to taking the lives of others seriously and helping them. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Sandy? You're almost there. There you go.
Last week, one of the things John said struck me when you were talking. He was saying about what he does each day, about the breathing in and breathing out. And then his thought after that is that everything in the world is perfect. It's just as the way it should be. That's a kind of an experience that I've had, that things just are as they are. It is diluted to break them in two and to say good and evil. And just because we want to paint a picture of, that's wrong, that's right, doesn't mean that people's actions are coming from what we consider evil. We have no way to judge that, and I don't believe we should judge that. I think that here goes my mind. Well, that was the one thing, but the other thing I wanted to ask about, if one lives by following the Eightfold Path, would one not automatically be following the precepts? If you're seeking to take right action, a right job, a right life, everything would seem to me that if you really sincerely followed the Eightfold Path, that you would not need to concentrate on following the grave precepts, because those would not be in your life if you were following the Eightfold Path. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, if you, I don't, the versions of things, vary from one place to another. But in fact, our precepts are exactly appear in in the same words in the Eightfold Path. When you have right speech and right action and right thinking, all of them are in there. They actually say those words, and so it comes from there. When we did begin the Tassajara, we had no idea about Paul. I mean, Jane and I and Paul and others. We had no idea about precepts, and we also had already rejected the idea, as Paul kind of said, of them having any meaning for us. Those are prescriptive. Those are not that's not the real truth. But finally, when you look at the precepts, but this is the U.S. also. In Japan, they really don't stress morality in the same way that we do, and they don't, and they of course don't kill and things like that, of course, but they just don't. But when you're looking at yourself through the eyes of the precepts, it can be very, very useful. And that's why we take the precepts, because it's a way to look at yourself. That's all. And then you decide, it's not that the precepts are the law, because they are not the law. They're a picture of the possibilities of diluted ways of thinking that we can have. And so you're studying your own delusions when you're looking at the precepts. And of course, once again, hurting others is the worst thing you can do. And so therefore, that's included in the precepts also, and very, very important. But so Zen Buddhism, our teachers always stressed the things like Dogen talks about here, the things that are beyond that, beyond prescriptive, that are about our Buddha nature rather than our small mind. But we study our small mind in the process. It isn't that's part of the purpose of the precepts, to study the small mind, even though it's not necessarily very, very pleasant. But it's useful. Yes, I'm sorry, I saw your hand up. Oh, Matt?
Yeah, so would it be accurate to say that the precepts are in a way holding up a mirror to yourself so that you can see what it is that your delusions are?
Exactly. That's right. That's perfect. Yep. Okay. Paul, I saw you moving your hand. Are you going to come back on there? There you are.
I was having a conversation with another teacher the other day, and we were talking about the precepts, and as I said, I've always had a little trouble with them because they always seem sort of judgmental and separating the speaker from the spoken to. But the way he was talking about it was that those precepts are the Dharmakaya, or the Buddha is Buddha itself. That is, the precepts are the Buddha, and I was trying to so I asked him a question. It seems like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And he said, oh yes. He said, yes, the precepts are the chicken and the Buddha's the egg. So you have to have one for the other, and they're what is the expression of the other anyway. I kind of enjoyed that. I don't know, and I'm still working on it.
I like that. Yeah. Buddha's the chicken.
Which is us.
Which is us.
Buddha's the priest. The egg. Buddha's the egg.
Buddha's the egg. Yeah.
The essence of the chicken.
Buddha's the egg. Oh, Buddha's the egg. Oh, okay. I got it.
And the precepts are the expression of Buddha. I mean, that's
okay.
That's Buddha manifested the world.
Yeah.
And is the chicken in this case, and then the egg is the condensed essence of the precepts, so that they're one and the same.
Got it.
Which is us.
But I think the point earlier, I think it was Michael was saying that they're a way of us seeing ourselves too. That's always that's what our practice is about. We take the precept on as practice, and then we say, oh, look at that, I just killed 4 things, or look at that, I just stole something from my brother. It's a way of seeing ourselves. It's not that it's, in that case, the practice is not a matter of good and bad. It's just a matter of seeing ourselves, he said.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And always remember that it's about, once again, I'm going to repeat myself here, but it's about us. Using the precepts to judge others is a terrible thing to do. They are only about our mind, looking at our mind. They are not. That's why, that's why it looks like, where someone's saying you should do this, but it's not what's happening. No one's saying you should do this. It's saying, look at yourself. Look at yourself. Thank you, Paul. Okay, anybody else? Yes, Mike.
Marvin had his
I have read several books about the precepts and stuff like this, and I get the general impression that if you really live, quote unquote, a good life, I know that's a judgmental term, the precepts are common sense. They are the way you would want to live your life in order to make other people's lives more pleasant, as well as your own life is pleasant. And so, yes, you have to take care of yourself first before you can help somebody. But if you look at the precepts, in a lot of ways, the Christian commandments are the same way. They're just common sense. If you want to be good to people around you and you want to treat them with compassion, the precepts are a means of doing that. It's not a rule, but they do help you do that, to be compassionate to the people you encounter. And that is reflected on you, not for merit, but just for the fact that you get pleasure out of treating other people with compassion and respect. And the precepts kind of are like a guideline that way. I mean, I understand they're not hard, fast, you do this or you die, but it makes life better for everybody, including yourself.
That's very true. You know, in his Tsukiyoshi didn't realize that he had. It's not really clear, but anyway, we didn't realize that Tsukiyoshi had cancer, and so therefore he found out, and then at that point he stopped giving talks. But in his last lecture, just by chance, he talked about the precepts, and he said the precepts are really ourselves. Well, so we don't need the precepts ultimately, because they show our true heart to us, but we don't recognize that. Not but heart, our true mind to us. We don't recognize that, and therefore we have the precepts to help guide us until we see it for ourselves. Then there's no need for them at all. Whatever you do is right action. But thank you. Oh, there's anybody other? Arvin.
I have two questions. Are the precepts these? I don't know how many did you say? 13 or whatever. Are they the Eightfold Path basically?
It's a part of it. The middle part of the Eightfold. I'm going to actually, my next talk will include that a little bit. But yeah, so you know we have there are 8 and 4 and 4, 5, 6 are right speech, right action, and right will, sometimes livelihood, and the precepts are actually directly out of that. The pure precepts are in actually the second one, which is right intention. But so yeah, they're just in there. They're embedded in there, and they were just taken right out of it. At least the text that I've seen.
My second question has to do with whether, you know, this is what my wife would call didactic, and I'm just wondering if why not to come up with one's own precepts, if it was indeed you looking at a mirror and trying to decide what was right for yourself, rather than pick up on these things that sometimes may feel, you know, I certainly find many of these, I find myself, you know, reading this one about vowing not to kill and things like that, and maybe personally, you know, in your very, very immediate circumstances, you might not, or you might have some control, but in terms of society, you absolutely have and participate in destruction all across beings and across planets. So I'm just wondering, you know, how this kind of relates to me. I struggle with this notion of accepting all these things that came out of, you know, from a long time ago, and they just don't resonate with me right now, because I feel like I can't accept many of these things. I can't say I vow not to kill when I am living a life that is condoning it in so many ways. So there's a lot coming up for me right now.
How many people have you killed last week, Arvin?
It's just that, look at us, we as a society, we live a certain way, we consume a certain way, we drive automobiles that, you know, take out the environment. We have beings that go away because of that. There's so much going on because of the way we live. Now, I know I've brought this up many times before. I know that, you guys keep saying, no, it's up to you. You have to live this, you have to feel this, but I don't feel that.
Well, you do feel it. You feel that you shouldn't do those things.
But feeling like I shouldn't do those things and taking a vow not to do them seem disconnected.
Well, you cannot control the whole world.
Can I
Yes, Jane's coming in. Jane's.
I'm not a mathematician, but don't you, when you're working on a problem, reduce it to the smallest possible workable situation? And isn't that a way for you to take care of your life in the same way? That you take what you're talking about are immeasurably large things that nobody could handle. And not even a great leader in the world could handle so much of that. So why not just reduce everything down to the simplest denominator like Zazen and start from there? One of the things I liked about the painter Georgia O'Keeffe was that she learned all these incredibly good techniques. And when she reached a certain stage of putting her work out and selling it and everything, and then finally one day she started asking herself, what is my real desire to paint? Or what is a real painting from me? What would it look like if I was to cut out everything that I think of as what taught me to be a good painter? And she went out into the desert and lived out in New Mexico for a while. And she started with a single stroke on a canvas. And she said, that much is me. And from here, I start my next painting, And I think the problems that we get into are looking at the world as if we can handle a whole world, and we can't. We can't even handle a whole county or a whole city. We can't handle a neighborhood. So bring it down to the closest, smallest denominator that you can handle, and that would be Zazen. And work from there. That's like one stroke on the canvas. That much is me. And then what happens? Yeah, Paul?
We have a list here.
I'd say it might
Okay,
have to
okay, go ahead, Paul.
Arvid, I'm with you. I think we live in this world that has gotten so far off the Eightfold Path that you can't even see it with a telescope. I mean, we consume this energy from a previous era that's destroying our world. We kill anything and everything possible to eat it. We throw stuff away. We throw an incredible amount of stuff away. We create chemicals that were never been known before, and then strew them all around the world, and plastics. I mean, we've gotten really, really, really a long ways away for this. The developed world is anyway, and the undeveloped world wants to join into that bounty. So we're living a time of where we're a long ways away from the path, but still we're individuals, and we have to figure how we can do something ourselves for ourselves in our own space. And me personally, I've taken on the idea of not to waste. Anytime something comes to me, I find it, I feel that if it's this karmically, if it comes to me, somebody just walks down the street and hands it to me, I'm stuck with it. I have to karmically find a solution for what to do with it, turn it into something, make something else out of it, compost it, grow it, eat it, and whatever. Anyway, that's my personal practice. But everybody has to find some way to live in this world that is so seductive, so rich, and so sugar coated that it's really that it's just titillation from one end to the other, and it's all very destructive. But that's where we are. This is the world we're living in, and everybody has to find their own way of dealing with that, and not necessarily make up their own precepts, but figure out which part of it they can actually work on and digest, which I think is what you were saying. Anyway, I appreciate your concerns.
Yeah. Yes. Chris.
So while I was listening to the talk and the discussion, two notions, I guess, I was reminded of two notions. One is the quote from Mother Teresa that says, "Do small things and do them with great love." And then the other one was Shohaku Okamura's thing about living by vow as opposed to living by karma. And I also thought about I forgot. I also thought about the precepts as a form of the perfection of shila or ethics, and how it, along with the other perfections, are part of the path of a bodhisattva to liberate oneself, and therefore be able to assist others in becoming liberated as well, which is living and be lived for the benefit of all beings. And how I also thought about Buddhism is said to be going against the stream. And so going against the stream is living by vow, is working with the precepts to liberate oneself by finding nirvana in samsara, and by focusing just on what we can do and not letting others' practice influence us, we're better able to actually work with the precepts and do what we can. And then that, little by little, is the most good we actually are capable of doing in our lives, and that's good enough. And if we just keep on with that attitude, we sort of develop magnanimous mind, and we develop the sort of, our bodhisattva hearts, and that good enough, that just focusing on what we can do, what we are able to do, is, I've found, for me anyways, a good way to keep myself from getting disheartened or getting discouraged. Not that it doesn't happen at all, because it does, but that's why I need to remember things like do small things and do them with great love. And that's why I need to remember to look at the precepts not as a to-do list, and something to accomplish, and therefore something I would continuously fall short of, but as Peter was saying, a way to work with my mind, work with my life. And then just, again, like clay or like dough, keep working it and keep working it and keep working it, and get what I get, and instead of and not comparing what I get to what I was thinking I should get.
Excellent. All those things are wonderful, Chris. John. Daniel, you disappeared there.
There he is.
I was going to say something. So I do also agree with Arvin. We're constantly killing in obvious and unobvious ways, but in the Bosatsu atonement, we ask for forgiveness for essentially killing and doing all these things. So that's what I would say. So in other words, the notion, yes, we are killing, we are doing this in many obvious and subtle ways. And in the practice, we have fusatsu, we have atonement. So we atone for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's. I guess that's it.